Retro Rebel is brought to you by templeofgeek.com, your one stop shop for all things geek. You can find all of our episodes and fulfill your sci fi, fantasy, and geek culture related needs at templeofgeek.com. Welcome to the Retro Rebel Gamecast, where we discuss gaming and related topics. Retro Rebel is released Fridays, and you can find this episode and much more by heading to templeofgeek.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Retro Rebel Podcast. My name is Stacy, and with me is my fellow Rebel co-host Amanda.
Hello.
I'm welcoming myself back.
I'm glad to have you back.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's good to be back. Been a long time. How have you been? What's been going on?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been playing mostly board games recently on Board Game Arena, and I'm playing a
Is
game
that an
called
online thing?
It is online. Yeah, you can play for free, and they have like loads of board games transition into a digital environment, so you can play it with pub groups and whatever. And
Sweet.
I've been playing Living Forest, which is like a deck building game stroke resource collecting game
Yeah.
that you play competitively. It's sort of like uh, Carcassonne, I guess, maybe. Um, but it's like all about being one with the forest and protecting it from forest fires, or like planting trees, or cultivating the animals of the forest and stuff. So it's a bit hippy dippy, but there are so many different ways to win and so many different strategies to apply that no two play sessions are the same. So I've really been enjoying playing that in pub groups.
That's cool. I'd never heard of such, and plus, I didn't know that that was a thing to be able to play board games online.
It's awesome. Yeah, you should try it. Board Game Arena. It's totally free.
Absolutely. Well, I still want to do the online D&D. I watch a couple channels on YouTube. I think it's D&D Shorts. It's a guy that kind of gives you some quick hacks to, build classes, some beginning classes, and then he gives you a lot of other trivia stuff that I would never have known unless you do a deep dive and you understand the game. So like broken monsters, things that kind of break the game, but you don't really know it because people don't use them very often. It's pretty cool anyway. I have, as I wrote, well, and people that will watch this and read the notes, I'm back on the sauce. So I've been playing Warcraft. Um,
No, I thought you hung up your boots, as it
I
were.
hung up my boots and my axe, or my whatever a shaman generally carries. I hung it up for a while. I hung it up for over a year, so I didn't play for over a year. I guess it was, and it's funny because when I pulled up these notes, it ended up being I just randomly selected one, and it was the one where Shadowlands had just been released,
Right.
and Shadowlands has been very divisive. It's caused me to be very introspective on the game as to why I don't like it. Like, what is it that is so different about this expansion compared to the others, and why have And if anyone that's been following Warcraft news knows that they have course corrected, and they've realized that they've had to do massive triage to get this game back on track because this was such a departure from what Warcraft has been. And I think I've came down. It came down to the fact that they made a massive multiplayer online game, this immersive, uh, you know, open world. They made it smaller. They made it to where it wasn't an open world anymore. I mean, it was everything was very contained, and so you didn't it did not feel like as big of a world. You felt disconnected from everything that made Warcraft what it was. And although there were things that were fun, I am excited about the next expansion, Dragonflight, and what they're planning on doing with that. All the buzz that I've heard about it from people who were very upset or at least disappointed in Shadowlands have been excited about it. So I don't know. I've done this on occasion where I'll put it down for a few months and come back and play. And I find that I do enjoy that particular type of grinding, that particular type of where I can pick it up and play for about 20 minutes and then put it down again. and not feel like I've lost any of the story, or like you might with a big RPG.
Yeah.
So so that's been good, and plus there hadn't been any other games for me to waste my money on until today or yesterday, actually. I think it was released. So Stray, have you seen the?
Yeah, the cat game. Oh my word.
I actually really want to play that.
It looks cute.
It does. There's that game, and then there's another game, sort of like Telltale's The Walking Dead, like a visual novel.
Right.
I'll have to. I'll write the name of that in the notes so that it will be posted. But whatever the name of that game is, that will be posted later. I do want to play that game as well. It is. It's not supposed to be. It's not a full price game, and it's not even going to be a very long experience. But neither was The Walking Dead. Each one of
Right.
those chapters was a couple hours long. So, but yeah, I'm gonna play the cat game, and I'm looking
The
forward
cat
to
game.
playing the cat game. So,
Apparently you can play piano in the cat game. That's what I've
I have
seen.
heard, I have heard that you can do many cat specific things, such as
Perfect.
knock item off shelf as
Lovely.
much as you want. Yeah, you can cat nap anytime. So, yeah, it's
Excellent.
pretty. Seems good. Seems pretty good. So, well, what about news?
News. Well, in the theme of games coming out, the new No Man's Sky expansion Endurance is dropping soon. And it is sort of following the Nintendo Switch port that's coming out in October. And it's very Battlestar Galactica meets Star Trek. You're supposed to be able to like pilot a big ship and, explore like more universal phenomenon, universe galactic phenomenon, perhaps.
I think both are
So
appropriate.
there's like a new changes to freighters and fleets, and you can sort of live your life on a starship, take place in space battles. All your ships will get a new bridge section and exterior walkways so you can actually see outside while you're in transit from one place to another. So it seems kind of cool. And No Man's Sky, if anyone's been following the game, it's actually a much better game now than it was when it came out because the development team really listened to the fans and they've been putting out some decent stuff as of late. So
Right.
um, that's my first piece of news. The second piece of news more affects you than me because I don't have a PlayStation. But Ubisoft Classic or Ubisoft Plus Classic currently has 27 games, but by the end of the year, they're going to have more than 50 games available to play. They haven't released what all those titles are going to be, but it's nearly double what is currently on offer by the end of the
Right.
year. So that's pretty good. That's like a half dozen games every month or so till the end of the year. So I think that makes PlayStation Plus Premium or Extra like worth a little bit more
I
with.
think that that's not the only thing that I think is shifting the pendulum swinging over to PlayStation in this regard. With their online their online systems. PlayStation right now just has more games, like more quality games. They don't have. I don't know if they have more games, like total games, and I know that they've eliminated a lot of their PS3 catalog. But I mean, like, I downloaded uh, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and started
Right.
playing it, and for I mean, I pay the monthly installment, but otherwise I play it for free, and so that's a big game. I did not pay full price for it, and so I can enjoy it if I want, or finish it, or just dabble with it and then go on to a different one if I want to. In gaming news for Xbox, Xbox and Netflix appear to be joining forces, and potentially Microsoft is going to purchase Netflix. This is gonna. I don't know what ultimately that's going to do to Netflix, but it has, I think, immediately affected it has affected their immediate plans to add an ad service tier. Which you said this when we were talking in the last
Yeah.
couple weeks, that you would be open to a cheaper ad based service as long as they kept the premium.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
it wouldn't be for me because I don't
Right,
want ads, but I do understand that with Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and Amazon and Netflix, there's now like too many streaming services. So I
right,
get that maybe some people just want to downgrade ones that maybe don't watch as much.
right, right. And I watch Hulu, and I don't pay for the service. I guess there is a version that doesn't have ads in it, and I
Mm,
have the one that does, the one that's bundled with Disney here in the States. And so, I get a lot of those shows. You just have to watch a few commercials at the beginning, and then you watch one intermittently throughout the show. It's not nearly what it would be if you were watching it actually on television. So
yeah,
it's definitely better than that. But I didn't mind it going in. So, I knew what I was getting with that. So I don't see this necessarily as being terrible. If they were going exclusively to an ad based model, um, I might just cancel Netflix if that were the case. Probably would actually.
it's not
Um,
really worth it.
no,
If you don't want to watch ads, then you're not going to enjoy the service if they go to an ad-based model. But everything that I've seen makes it seem that they are interested in doing a hybrid option, which is fine by me.
right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's all the news that I have. I didn't have anything else in particular that struck me.
Well,
So
I
we
mean,
can get.
aside from the hilarious subscription model in BMWs at the moment, like that's quite
Oh,
amusing.
well, that segues very nicely into what we were going to talk about today.
Perfect.
The fact that BMW, I mean, the audacity, but just
Mm.
we talk about Jim Stephanie Sterling a lot on this show anyway. But their last show, was touched on this, and the fact that BMW is selling, they have a live service model to provide heated seats, and I just don't understand. But it's a perfect encapsulation of the issue we're going to talk about today, that you have a vehicle that is a fully functional vehicle that has all of these components already built into it. They just won't let you use it unless you pay a little bit more money. I just bought
Yeah.
it. I paid for everything already,
Yeah.
but I can't use the features until I pay you a little bit more money. It's extortion.
I think it's so funny that everybody freaked out about this because it does seem quite ridiculous. But if you remember in the early 2000s, OnStar came
Right.
into play, and that was a subscription model, and
Right.
no one said a word because it
Right.
was so superlative. It wasn't like
Right.
a necessary. So I think people were like, oh, fair enough. But now
Right.
that it's seats, people are like, this is ridiculous. But they've been sneaking it in little by little, like
Right.
if you have a car with a sat nav and you want to get it updated, you've got to go to the dealership and pay for that, like map
Right.
update. It's not free.
And
So
that should be. And it's this, I think it's this slow progression that, like, it's like, I can't remember the term that they used, but effectively it's this chipping. They're basically just chipping away at the defense. So it's little subtle changes over time that end up, if you look at A and B, you're like, oh wow, how did we even get here? But if you look
yeah.
over the course, it's been OnStar or XM radio
Yeah,
or
XM radio, that's another one that just snuck in. And
yeah.
people, no one was up in arms. Like I remember, no one was
Right.
up in arms. People were just like, if you don't want it, don't buy it.
Right.
Fair
Well,
enough. Yeah.
and that's fine. And like it's in my dad's truck has it in it. Um, and I guess they maybe paid for a service, or my mom pays for it and doesn't even know anymore, which is probably the case. And so you can access I can still access all the channels. I would never pay for that service. I wouldn't. But I pay for Pandora, so I can listen to what I want to when I
Yeah.
want to. I'm still paying for a service. But nonetheless, I guess if they had built that into the price of the car, like if you're going to keep it for 5 years and it's $14 a month, build it into the price. They're never going to know. The fact that this makes it's like it's overt, like you can see it. I know what they're doing, but I know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
so it's like maybe they didn't iterate small enough. They should have gone like two more. You got to cheat two more times before you just full on do this. Like It's like they got impatient and they just needed the money, and so they just went ahead and jumped and
They
did it.
went
They're like,
straight there.
we don't
I
have
mean,
time
to
to do it.
some extent, I can't even really blame them because once a manufacturer makes a car and they get that initial first new car sale, they
Right,
don't see a cent after that unless you take it to the dealership for servicing. But many people don't. So
right,
oftentimes they only get that initial sale and they never see any money ever again. And I can see where they're like, well, wait a minute, we want a little piece of this pie ongoing. I can't
right.
even really blame them because everybody else gets a piece of the pie ongoing. The used car dealers sell a warranty on a used car for a few months and they pocket that. And then they sell you service plans and they pocket that. And,
Right.
the dealership never sees any of that. Like,
Right, and we're seeing a market with the used cars and all that where there's just a supply issue, and so the demand is very high because there's just no
mm,
supply of cars, and now people are having, if you want a car, you have to buy it and build it and have it sent. Like they don't even have stock here in the states. Where if you want a car, you're gonna have to either buy what's on the lot. Your every car is like, I don't know, somewhere around 15 to 20% over sticker price. On, I mean, that's standard now. I can buy a used car for cheaper than I can. I mean, a new car cheaper than I can a used car.
yeah, it's
You know,
it's getting to that state over here, but not really because of supply and demand, more because we're supposed to move to totally electric vehicles by 2030. So that
in your
means,
country, in that
yeah, in the
in
UK, yeah. So
really,
there will be it'll be illegal to sell new petrol or diesel vehicles from 2030. So that means that all the cars within the last 10 years have really high used car value because there's not going to be many of them left. And
right,
then it'll be only electric from that point out. So all the existing petrol and diesel stock is it. Like
interesting.
they can't they'll be importing them from America and the mainland. I can almost guarantee you. Like it's bad now, it will be worse later
Oh,
because we
for
just
sure.
don't have the infrastructure for electric at the moment. I even considered getting one and instead I got a Mazda 6 because like I have a charging port at my house now, but I'm not going to live here forever. I rent.
Right,
This isn't my home.
right.
So when I do buy a house, whenever that is, will they have the facility? Will I be able to afford to put a charging point in? Will it even have a driveway? A lot of houses in the UK don't, so it's just a lot of considerations that I don't think they're ready for, but the market is already reacting like a lot.
It's so, yeah. I mean, so to that point, or to the with the vehicles, these these models for live services,
Mm,
cars aren't the only ones that are doing it. But I think it's been, that's one of the most overt, I think, where it's now affecting the mainstream. People are actually seeing this is sneaking into every facet. So this is not going to be the only place we see it, and we've seen it other places. It just didn't seem as nefarious almost as that, as a feature like heated seats. It's a button in my car. It's like, and my car's 10 years old, and you
mm,
push a button and it'll heat my seat. I push another button. I have two settings on it. It's great. It's fine. You know,
yeah. I
um,
don't think it's worth $7 or $17
not
a
even
month.
not even close. Not
Like, how
$1 a
often do you
month.
actually use it? Like, who cares? I don't get that excited about it. My partner has a Jaguar and it has heated seats and he loves it, but I couldn't care less. My butt gets too hot. I don't need this.
That's right.
Like,
I don't need it. I don't need it, and in the South, it would really only be useful about 2 months. And so, other than that, it's really not. It's really not useful. Not only that, I have never seen a I guess a dock, or a plug for electric cars anywhere where I live in the state of Alabama. Like I've
that's
never
scary.
seen one. Like,
That
where
is so
would you,
scary.
if you bought one? Well, what happens if you go 6 hours and you're done? You're done.
I don't know. Listen, and they don't last as long in cold weather. Like if you get
Right.
a Nissan Leaf, you'll get like I don't know. I think it gets like 160 miles, but in cold weather only 100. Like what? Then you're charging that like every day. What is the point of this? Like
That's right.
I think there's like room to go there, but I do think that today's topic is even more important than it ever has been before because free to play and pay to play elements are creeping into like every part of our life. So like,
Absolutely.
how
Absolutely.
do people stay safe, keep on top of what's going on and what they're spending when it comes to these service models?
Correct. And so my notes are all over the place on this. So if you want, I mean, we can go we can go through yours and discuss them and go through mine afterwards and discuss them if you want to do
Sure.
that. I
Yeah.
think that way we can add, and if you touch on some things that I've got, I just won't mention them. But
Okay. Great.
because my first, I think the first thing is that I wanted to say, and then I'll let you go into yours is if you have the choice to play to pay full price for a game or just play a free to play, don't play free to play. Like just don't. That's my best advice if you want to stay safe in free to play model is don't do it. But if you had to, this is how you would do it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so
Perfect.
let's go.
Well, I would say that at the core of free to play, there really isn't a problem if you want to spend money because it's okay if you want to support the creators. That's fine. But it's when it gets out of hand, when you're not keeping track of it, or when you are succumbing to manipulative game design tactics, that's sort of when it becomes a problem. So I guess the first one for me, and what I tend to do when I play a free to play game, is I don't save my card details in the system because then if I want to make a purchase, I've got to get up, get my card, and think about it for a second. And that second is sometimes enough to be like, why am I spending £5 on a mount? Do you know? Like
It's a good
sometimes
buffer.
all it is.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good
Um,
buffer.
yeah, just give yourself like a chance to be sure it's what you actually want to do. And if you want to spend that money, great. It's not a problem. It's your money. Oh, Stacy, I accidentally hit mute on your thing. I apologize. A plane was going by, and I meant to mute the plane in my background, but I muted you instead. Apologies. Can you just unmute yourself in the stream, and I'll just make a quick note for
All
Monica.
good.
There we
There
go.
we go. I was just muted for a second.
Yeah, apologies. It's fine. The plane's gone now. The second one is if you're going to spend money in a free to play game, that's okay, but you need to set a limit that you're comfortable with and you need to stick to that. So whatever it is, I'm going to spend £10 a month or £20 a month. Like I'm not in charge of your finances, but you need to decide what you think is healthy and then you need to stick to it. And there are a lot of tools that can help you stick to spending plans, many of them offered by your bank. You can set up alerts. And whenever you spend with a specific merchant, you can have alerts set up in order to text you that you've spent it, or you can review your statement and search for the company that you're spending with, just to make sure that you're staying in line with what you are comfortable with doing. And I think part of that is just being accountable to yourself that if you go over, then you need to rein it in. Like you
Right.
need to perhaps uninstall the game for a little while, give yourself some breathing room. I easily get carried away spending in free to play games 100%. Like I spent thousands on City of Heroes, no question. But at the time when I was very young, I didn't have anything else to spend my money on. So it wasn't really a big problem and I wasn't going into debt. But that doesn't mean that that wouldn't happen for some people. So just make sure that you set a budget for entertainment and you include free to play game spending in it as well.
Right. Right. No, that's true.
And then my last one is that if you start to see a lot of players with a cosmetic paid item, don't feel like everybody has purchased it and you have to, or you're behind the curve. Like game design, one of the basic tenets is to show you lots of people who have this stuff, to put you in matches with people that have that stuff, to make it seem like everybody's bought it. That isn't the case. They just want to trick you into thinking that you're on the outside. Okay, so if you don't really care about it, you're just seeing it a lot. Don't fall prey to trends. Do you know? Like, not all of us look good in flared jeans back in the 90s. Yeah, like it's okay that
As
everybody
much
was.
as we thought we did.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't have to. just know that the game is designed in order to encourage you to spend money, and part of that is making you feel underpowered or outside of the loop if you don't have the cosmetic or performance enhancing items. So just know that that is why you feel that way, and you do not have to purchase. Eventually the game will stop trying to serve you that content. Like, they'll give up on you and they'll move to someone else. There's only a limited number of people that they can put their whales into a team with. So
Right.
eventually it'll stop if you can just be patient.
Well, that's good. I mean, and something also I don't think a lot of people know. I mean, they don't know if you just kind of wait it out, your temptation, if you can, uh, that you can get there. So I think free to play, just by and large, if you look at free to play and the model, the term, it's a big red flag. Just know that free to play is not free. There's nothing really about that experience ultimately that is free other than the base model, like just getting into the game. So understand that there are varying levels of racketeering involved in your free to play model. They are going to try to get money from you. They're going to create a problem that is going to try to get money from you. So I don't know if that's not the definition of racketeering and extortion, but I think it is.
It feels
So
right.
it feels right. So like you were saying, Amanda, I think it's important to educate yourself. You're going to have to have a little bit of self discipline, but that education, knowing what they're trying to do, I think really does help inform you on this. So uh, know that. Uh, Look for the alternatives. So, for instance, if there's a free to play model out there, but there's a pay to play model, look at the two first. Like, just look and see. For instance, we'll take Diablo Immortal and Diablo. So, if you had Diablo 3 and Diablo Immortal, you do have two social experiences. You have two great single player experiences. From what I understand, I mean, very polished game in Diablo Immortal, but incredibly broken in terms of the free to play model. Like, it leans heavy into the whales. It leans heavy into the FOMO and trying to get you to kind of succumb to that and put a lot of pressure on the players, and the amount of money that it takes to get to that point is usually outside of most of our price ranges. So it might just be better to select the pay to play model first, avoid the free to play model altogether, and you already know what you're getting into. You basically have paid for the experience. There's no surprises in that. But if you do choose to do the free to play, um, give yourself a what I'd like to call a safety time frame. So give yourself a safety time frame. So you said don't put your card in there. I'm saying also don't don't spend any money. Give yourself a time frame, 6 hours, 1 day, 1 week, and don't spend any money. Just see how much you enjoy the game to begin with, and then give yourself an opportunity to see if it's even worth playing, if you want to invest any money, if you can tell that it's just going to be a slog and a grind, and if I don't spend money, this is going to be completely unenjoyable. So give yourself a safety time frame to make sure you even like the game. um, no one is going to save you from these purchases, so do a little bit of research. uh, like I said, these games are full of predatory practices. So, stay away from, or at least do your due diligence and educate yourself. If it's got NFTs in it, if it's got crypto tied to it in some way, I'm not saying those things are inherently bad. I am going to say that by and large, statistically, factually, the majority of them are scams. An NFT, it not in and of itself is not necessarily a scam. Crypto is incredibly volatile. So are NFTs. If those are the driving force behind the game, if you find yourself, having to sit through more ads than you are actual gameplay, which I have found this especially in kids games, you can't you can't even complete one of the activities or switch between activities before you have an ad that lasts twice as long as the actual activity. And so I've even purchased games for my daughter, my youngest, that have ads that are longer than the actual activity, you know. And so and they're just a little bit less subtle means of trying to get you to spend your money someplace else as well, you know, just to fund the game. Um so yeah, so I guess ultimately, like, if I were to distill it down into three points, look for safer alternatives. First of all, see if there's a safer alternative, meaning that all the purchases are up front. You don't have to worry about what is buried beneath the surface. Give yourself a safety time frame. So a time frame where you're playing the game without expecting to purchase anything, and then at the end of that, then you can do a do an evaluation if this is something you want to do, and if you want to spend money, use some of the responsible spending techniques that you listed, and then educate yourself on the background. So what are the in-game purchases? What is the currency based in? Are you having to invest in somebody's personal NFT project or their personal cryptocurrency? Let me just tell you that that's a bad idea. I'm
Yeah.
not a financial advisor, but I don't have to be to tell you this one is not a good idea. And that all these games are full of predatory practices to get your money. Know that going into it, and without educating yourself or educating others, or or trying to do what you can. I'm not saying that these are inherently bad games. I've played free to play, so have you. I have spent money. I spent money on Pokemon Go,
Yeah.
um,
So have
and
I.
I but I enjoyed the experience. There was enough I guess. And the last one being, are you getting the return on your investment? So if I'm spending the money in it, I'm enjoying my time that I'm doing it. If I could equate it to anything else, a night at the pub or whatever else, and I've spent $30 here, and I would have spent more than that if I was going out or something, and I really enjoyed it, and I did this for 5 or 6 hours through the course of the week or more, well, that may have been money well spent. I can rationalize that, and that makes sense. And so, using Pokemon Go as an example, there were enough, because I didn't play it. I didn't play it as much as some of the people that had like multiple extra batteries in their pockets to keep their phone going. I played it just enough, an hour or so here while I was walking around. I didn't ever run out of balls to, Pokeballs. I didn't ever run, I was able to go to enough stops and replenish my supplies. It gave me enough incentive to spend a little bit of money here and there. They threw you a bone.
Yeah.
If everything's locked behind a paywall, that's another big red flag. If there's no way to access that with actual play, then that should be a huge red flag. So this is not going anywhere. Free to play model's not going anywhere. We're gonna have to kind of live with one another. So how do we live with one another safely? And there's no way to do it without educating yourself, without kind of arming yourself with some of this information. So what are your thoughts? What are your final thoughts on this?
I think that's pretty fair. And I think reflecting on what you said is like compared to a night out is brilliant idea. I would also say like just remember you are gonna get bored of this and you are
Right.
not going to play it in a couple months or a year and all that money you spent, it's not an investment. You're
No,
never going to see a cent of that again. It is spent money. You
that's right.
will get bored of it and you will not care about it within probably less than a year. So,
Right.
as long as you're comfortable with that and you're comfortable with the investment under those terms, then I think it's fine. We spend money on lots of stuff in life and it's not the end of the world. I'm going to go see a movie on Sunday and I've paid for VIP seats because I want to be as comfortable and enjoy myself as much as possible. Is it like
That's right.
£2 more expensive? Sure. But I'm going to enjoy myself a whole lot more in a squishy leather seat.
It's
So it's
the only
fine.
way to watch movies now. So
Exactly. and
yeah,
and I want to go to the cinema because I want the experience, the escapism. I want to be able to turn my phone off for 2 hours and like just be left alone and all that sort of stuff, and I want to eat the salty popcorn. All that is worth it, but I probably will not remember anything about the movie in a less than a year's time. I'm certain of
right.
it. There are movies I saw last year I don't remember a thing about of.
Didn't even
So
remember seeing them.
Yeah, so and it's absolutely fine. Like, that is part of life, and not everything is a long-lasting pleasure. I don't
That's
remember
right.
the ice cream I ate yesterday, but I think it only becomes a problem if you're not going into it with the mindset that this is not a lasting pleasure. Like, eventually you are going to get bored of it and you're never going to play it again, and only spend money relative to that. I think that is my final thought on the topic.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that there are, I think, you know, to make that one more time, just to make that comparison between what BMW is doing and what maybe something like Diablo Immortal, or there's some that are like Clash of Clans,
Yeah.
uh, where things are time gated. I mean, I think we throw a lot of these terms around a little bit too loosely. That Clash of Clans is absolutely time gated. There are things you have to wait a day. There's nothing you can do about speeding that up unless you spend money, and then then that'll make a difference. uh you know some of the more recent games that have been released that already had a lot of this stuff built in, or at least some of the code was there. It's real hard to make that definition or write the definition to delineate this is this is taking advantage of the consumer. This is just us hedging our bets, maybe putting some code in there and selling it later as DLC. I don't know how to necessarily delineate those two or define them a little bit, define them well enough so that we can really, this is the difference between the two. But I feel like I know it when I see it. I
Mm.
feel that's, it's like the eyeball test, and some of these just aren't passing the eyeball test just by seeing it. And I mean, I don't have a more scientific way of doing it right now. I wish I did, because it's varying levels, and some of these games, I think they violate these things a little bit more than others. Some we're willing to tolerate. The problem is, and I think this is what it comes down to at the end. The problem is that because we're willing to tolerate this, they continue to push the envelope. If we weren't willing to do it, like, nah, I'm not going to play that. No, I'm not going to buy that. No, I'm not going to spend any money on that. They'd have to find another way to extort us. So, you know, maybe they'd have to keep giving us better content until we're willing to do it again.
Possibly,
Um,
possibly.
Possibly, but because we're not, and we're weak, and I need it now, we're going to continue to pay for it. So,
Excellent.
well, all right. Well, stay safe out there, right?
That's right.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, that wraps up this episode of Retro Rebel. I want to thank Amanda for this week's discussion. All the notes from this week's episode will be posted on our site, templeofgeek.com. If you'd like to add to the discussion or reach out with questions, sound off in the comments or message us on Facebook or Instagram at Retro Rebel Podcast. And please head over to wherever you get your podcasts and rate us, because that really helps our show. Until the next time.
See you later.